Inside a forest somewhere, a relatively loud rustling as foliage of leaves move around causes the entirety of the wildlife here to flee in surprise and terror, thinking that the creature hiding behind those thick gathering of grass and leaves is a predator about to pounce on them. As the rustling and moving of the greeneries all around becomes more apparent to everyone's senses, the animals and other little critters running around goes even farther away from the source of the sound, proving reality couldn't be even more disappointing as the origin of the sounds appears out of the bushes. Ha! Finally! Looks like I'm out of here. Using his forearms to wipe the beads of sweat forming on his forehead, a young man shouts, his appearance being obscured by the thick adventure gear he's wearing, a cloak covering the entirety of his figure, partnered with a hood that hides even his facial features. The only thing that can identify him is the particularly manly, upbeat and youthful voice. After celebrating a bit too early to his comfort, the young man starts scanning the surroundings, making him feel extremely dumb as he saw wads of trees surrounding the place he's standing on, the little creatures failing to run away from the supposed predator looking curiously at the seemingly brainless biped standing in front of them. Feeling the gaze of the critters around him, the young man couldn't help but feel a bit frustrated and annoyed, cursing at himself for being weak with directions, but refusing to let his frustration take over and harm said critters as he knows that any creature in the forest, no matter how big or small they are, can be a terrifying predator especially in these times. Opting to avoid the creatures and walking around away from them, the upbeat young man starts climbing the trees, leaping from branch to branch swiftly and effortlessly, as if this is something he's already so used to doing. Man really feels nice with the wind caressing your face, huh? Moving swiftly from tree to tree, the upbeat young man mutters to himself as he starts enjoying the experience he's currently having, the refreshing scent of the woods along with the relaxing green surrounding making him nod in satisfaction, the only regret he has being the fact that he's currently lost in this place. This forest seems to be enchanted with space-type magic. What annoys him the most is the fact that he's already traversing all across this forest for almost a week now, the supply on his spatial pouch already running out, forcing him to hunt the creatures in the forest without care for to which is the dangerous ones and which can really kill due to the shortage of his food supply. Damn! Here again, landing on a familiar place again, the upbeat young man's voice starts getting tinged by a bit of annoyance, seeing a mark that he placed on a tree ever since he found himself seemingly just circling around this place, a mark that he saw for the 100th times already ever since he starts going on a straight line. This place shouldn't be messing with my sense of direction. After all, if that's the case, I won't see these marks in the same order as I place them. Analyzing the mark on the tree, the young man said to himself while looking at the singular/left on said tree, marking the first one of the pathfinders he leaves along the way, something that clearly fails to serve its purpose as he comes back to it time and time again. After mulling at his situation for a while, the upbeat young man got disturbed as loud screeching sound erupted from the air, followed by the sound of metal hitting metal, the force clearly strong enough to destroy the surroundings given how loud it is despite being in the air. Wondering what causes such sounds, the upbeat young man directs his gaze towards the skies, seeing two giant birds both bearing the same metallic wings, claws and beaks, one of them clearly an eagle given the size of its wingspan and its hook-shaped beak, and the other one a hawk, apparent from the hoarse screeching sound coming out of it. As the two terrifying predators with bodies spanning meters soar unhindered through the skies, the upbeat young man just stares at them with desire in his eyes while clenching his fist, something weighing his mind making him unable to focus at the majestic match between the two predators. Must be nice having one of those flying monsters as a contracted beast. Watching the two creatures battling it out in the skies, the upbeat young man thinks to himself before shaking his head and wryly smiling, knowing that such hopeful circumstances is merely a pipe dream for an orphan like him. Keek! Hearing the loud scream from the birds fighting in the air, the upbeat young man snaps out of his lamenting thoughts, looking up once again only to see both the birds plummeting towards the grounds, the two of them clearly hurt from fighting each other, their severe wounds visible despite the two of them being dozens of meters up in the air. As the two barely living creatures falls into the ground, they produced a loud thud resounding all across their surroundings. Said thud can also be clearly heard by the upbeat young man, making him sure that those two birds fall somewhere near him. This is a chance. With one thing running through his mind, the upbeat young man starts rushing towards the direction of the sound, immediately climbing through the trees and leaping from branch to branch, his legs still shaking from the mixture of excitement and terror coursing through his entire body, excitement at the fact that this might be his chance to leap towards the dragon's gate in one step, and terror at the fact that one wrong move in front of these two large predators will irrefutably spell his certain death. No tigers outside the tiger's den. Braving his terror though, the upbeat young man thinks to himself that there's no safe opportunity, as they always coexist with the danger in the surroundings, and given how life-threatening the thing he is about to attempt, it only means that succeeding on this means that the opportunity he will acquire is something really great. Finally arriving at the place where the two massive creatures fell, the upbeat young man first investigates the area for other dangers, his eyes widening in surprise as he saw the trees felled and scattered away from the impact of the fall, a small, desolate crater holding the two giant metallic birds in the middle, the two of them still struggling despite the clear loss of the blood in their body. Watching the two birds now weakly struggling to get away from death's door, the upbeat young man decides to gather his courage and close in on the two, readying something that he takes out from his bag, a sort of parchment paper rolled into a small scroll and tied by a translucent thread, a candle wax seal preventing the thread from loosening. I heard that flying monsters are great contracted beasts, it might even land me in a good job in the military. Looking up at the massive figures overshadowing his own, the upbeat young man thought to himself as he walks even closer with shaking knees, extremely careful as he doesn't want to make the two birds aware of his feeble existence. I should get that eagle, that must be the soaring steel eagle from the compendium. Looking at the metallic eagle, clearly a bit more vigorous than the hawk after their fight, the upbeat young man thought to himself as he remembers the description of the soaring steel eagle in a must-have book for all aspiring beast tamers of the kingdom, the Myriad Beast Compendium. Standing at a height nearing dozen meters, the soaring steel eagle is something with a potential high enough for a beast tamer be a partner with, a beast that is well sought after by noble clans of the kingdom, and now, a beast that is most possible going to be the upbeat young man's companion for a long period in his life. Calm down, opening the parchment paper, the upbeat young man saw a circular seal drawn in the middle of it, something that not only him, but nearly all, if not every person in this world knows, a binding seal, this one intended to establish a contract between a person and a beast. One of the prerequisites of said process are the blood of both the person and the target beast, something that the young man has in abundance given the serious injuries the soaring steel eagle sustains, having one of the keys to the contract secured prompting him to take out a knife from his spatial pouch then proceeding to cut his hands, a fatal mistake about to drive him into a grave danger. Amidst all of the advantage of contracting a soaring steel eagle, there is one fatal flaw that might make a beast tamer unable to acquire it, and that is the fact that human blood, more often than not, is something that acts as a catalyst to make said type of bird monster far more aggressive than they already do, even going as far as abandoning their own lives just to devour the origin of the blood. Despite the clear weakness of this soaring snake eagle, a lean camel is still bigger than a horse, and this case, even if the bird monster is just a skeleton, it is still way bigger than the upbeat young man, making it way too easy for it to take the life of this fresh prey in front of it. Now looking at the soaring steel eagle's sharp bloodied eyes, the upbeat young man couldn't help but flinch and take a step back, but immediately regaining reason as he knows that this creature, despite being severely wounded, is something that he can't hope to face in his current state, making the only choice for him being forcing the contract with the bird monster, something he can only achieve if the blood of the soaring steel eagle lands on the binding seal. Setting his mind to achieve his goal or even just to survive, the upbeat young man actively finds an opening both for the chance of contracting this monster and his chance for escape, both chances being minimal as the reach of the soaring steel eagle makes it way harder for him to approach him, as well as create distance between the two of them. As they continue dancing around with the eagle relentlessly sending in attacks, claws, beaks and feathers alike and the upbeat young man barely dodging each of said assault, it becomes more and more apparent that the upbeat young man is quite skilled with his footwork, sparing little effort to dodge the soaring steel eagle's attack every time. Dodging around and moving like a leaf flowing with the wind as it falls, the upbeat young man starts gaining more and more confidence that he can either approach close distance with the soaring steel eagle or in the worst case scenario, even escape it, the second fatal mistake that he committed as he fails to take into account the cunning of such species of monster. The eagle looking at him with a peculiar light in its eyes as it purposely reveals an opening, something that the upbeat young man immediately jumps on. Shrieking as if it achieves victory against this fly-like opponent, the soaring steel eagle flaps its wings and rises a bit to the sky, making the upbeat young man's target miss by quite a lot, his body falling into the soaring steel eagle's claws, the power from its grips crushing his inside. Damn it, am I going to die here? Feeling his organs being crushed, the upbeat young man couldn't help but start filling his mind with dreading thoughts while still thinking of ways to try and escape the cunning bird's clutches, something that he fails to do as air starts to vacate his lungs. The soaring steel eagle has a peculiar habit of keeping its prey alive before it starts feasting on it, this particular fact apparent from how the hawk it's carrying with its beak is still somehow struggling, making it quite annoyed as it repeatedly hit the human in his claws already, a creature that its kind find quite delectable, having taste more than satisfying enough to sacrifice themselves for it. Directing its attention to the young human male it captured previously, the still bleeding soaring steel eagle couldn't help but feel disappointed as the human seemingly already draws his last breath, his unmoving body already cold, probably from the wind or from other things, making the eagle frown in disdain as even though it is a human, it wouldn't eat something no longer alive, as to them, it is similar to human eating rotten food. So despite aching for the loss of such delicacy, the soaring steel eagle opens its claw and let the young human go, his body falling down all the way though the vast river underneath them, its impact to the water producing a simple plop as his body falls towards the river feet first. After watching its supposed dinner falling deeper into the flowing river, the soaring steel eagle continues dashing to a certain direction, trying to forget what a wasted encounter it had today. After falling from the soaring steel eagle's grasp, the upbeat young man couldn't help but feel quite lucky as he prolongs his life even if it's just for a bit more, a bonus since the greatest prize he has right now is the comfort of not being eaten by such brutal bird species, probably only being consumed some strong sea creatures should he fail to survive in the river, something he thought is so much better than the soaring steel eagle. Using a technique he brought from someone in order to safely move on the water without swimming, he eventually finds himself quite far away from where the soaring steel eagle drops him, prompting him to urge himself to reach the riverbank. Cough. Cough. Ag, it fucking hurts. good thing that shit really works. Being washed on the riverbank, the upbeat young man complains as he feels his entire body hurting, the internal bleeding's clearly something that he needs to deal with immediately, but his limbs being injured and his left leg even broken prevents him from doing so, forcing him to limp towards the nearby clearings to try and find somewhere safe pass on peacefully. As he reaches the clearings, the upbeat young man starts lying himself on the ground, placing whatever is left on the spatial pouch he has in order to cover his rapidly cooling self, smiling in mockery as he never expected that his death will be due to the fact that he recklessly tries to establish a contract with a ruthless bird monster with strength way out of his league. A leap to the Dragon's Gate, huh, fuck, what a misfortune. Riley smiling to himself as he thinks of just how foolish his previous actions are, the upbeat young man starts laughing to himself, thinking that given the chance, he will still risk it all for the opportunity to establish a contract with such sought-after flying monster, only this time, he will be more careful with his approach. An earthquake, feeling the ground underneath himself trembling with such intensity, the upbeat young man forces himself to sit, looking around and seeing nothing that might cause such trembling around him, no signs of moving life and only trees around, making him wonder why an earthquake is happening now. Before he can fully realize what is happening though, a crater forms underneath him, swallowing him whole and making him fall into the deep, dark underground, running through the names of all gods, goddesses and deities he knows and cursing all of them simultaneously, mockingly asking them why they won't just let him die in peace, his falling body about to die in pieces. Water seemingly loves him really well though, as falling into the underground, the soft and gentle water once again cushions him from his fall, prompting him to think of something that is completely irrelevant to how he will deal with this situation. I take one of my words back, I'm sorry god or goddess of water, if ever you are real, for doubting you and your good intentions, joking to himself to alleviate his pain, both mentally and physically as the happenings just got more and more absurd, the upbeat young man said before laughing once again, his loud laughter abruptly being stopped as he feels something in his lungs being teared. Damn, if there's a god or goddess of pain, I give the words I take from the god or goddess of water to you, holding his chest as if it can help with alleviating the pain, the upbeat young man curses once again before forcing himself to stand up, only now realizing that the surroundings is something of a dome, the perfectly hemispherical structure being lit by luminescent stones stuck within its walls, and on the very center of the water, a pedestal is standing upright, a stalactite and a stalagmite nearly touching each other, seemingly holding at their very tip the brightest light source in this place, a floating speck of light with its color constantly going around the visual spectrum, from red to yellow to blue and all the colors in between, then disappearing and returning to red once again. Despite the constantly changing color of the light source though, it always shines a gentle, bluish light all across the dome, making the upbeat young man wonder about it even more. Carefully approaching the light source, the upbeat young man couldn't help but enter a trance as he comes into a close distance with it as he feels inexplicable attraction to it, prompting him to reach his fingers to try and touch it, his current course of action becoming the very moment that will change the course of his entire life, for better or worse, no one knows, however, it is definitely going to be way grander than it currently is. Detected the existence of a life form that is compatible with the rule of the draconic realm, now establishing a connection with the life form. Connection established, dragon herding system now active. Hearing such words in his mind, the upbeat young man couldn't help but wonder just what in the world is this thing that he recklessly touches once again, a tinge of regret in his mind for always exploring and trying to interact with things that pique his curiosity, something that he develops really well from when he's still a child. After waiting for a while in wariness though, nothing that seems to be even remotely dangerous comes out, making him wonder just what it is that suddenly happens to him, checking his severely injured body for something that changes, disappointed once he sees nothing. What the hell is that? Compatible? Draconic realm? Dragon herding system, thinking about the words he heard running in his mind previously, the upbeat young man mutters to himself, his last words seemingly triggering something as a gray floating screen appears in front of him, the simple design incomparable to those projection screens in the city, but this one having a more mysterious feel to it. In the screen, the upbeat young man saw information about himself, as well as some combinations of words that is when together, completely unfamiliar to him, making the thing that piques his curiosity the most being the fact that this gray floating screen completely compiles basic information about him. Dialect Leonhardt. Race, human. Age, 16. Realm gold, 0. Cultivations. Magic, solid red core, combat power at light red core. Body tempering, mortal. Elemental affinity, wind. Overall combat power, half star, each level that an individual can cross increases the overall combat power by 1 star. Draconic realm. Missions. Shop. Reading the basic information, the young man, Dialect couldn't help but nod as it perfectly reflected his strength. The only thing making him wonder was the fact that despite his combat power being above his current strength when it came to magic, this gray floating screen still deemed him as someone with only half-star combat power, something that his mind doesn't dwell on so much as he checks the other features as well, now without any wariness on him as he thinks about one thing. Whatever, I'm slowly dying now anyways, so what's the worst that can happen? he thought to himself as he reached for the screen, trying to interact with it and clicking on one of the things written on it, that is the words, Draconic Realm. After clicking on those words, he was surprised as a small, black spatial door appeared in front of him, the unassuming design being just a vertical ellipse that was just slightly taller than him. Braving everything else as if there's no longer anything to lose, the upbeat young man takes a step forward towards the spatial door, his entire body disappearing from the dome structure within just a few steps, his mind completely unaware that the light he just touched previously is no longer inside the structure as well. Coming out on the other side of the spatial door, the upbeat young man couldn't help but have his eyes widen due to what he saw, the tall green grass reaching nearly to his knees moving around calmly as the cool wind blew all across it, the tall grass spanning all across the entire field reaching all through what the young man's eyes can see, the astonishment apparent on his face particularly on his eyes as he saw something more absurd. This land, despite its massive size, is still something with borders, hence why when he struggles to run in a straight direction to see what the edge of this land looks like, he is even more surprised as he discovers that this entire field is floating up in the sky, making him all the more excited to know what more is in this floating island. Before he can start exploring though, the floating gray screen appears in front of him once again, a word of greetings on it, along with some instructions that he seemingly needs to follow. Welcome to the Draconic Realm, new ruler. Here, you must do your best to nurture the next generation of true dragons, and the way you are raising them will affect how they think and how strong they will be. Please start incubating the first dragon egg now. Reading the words on the screen, the upbeat young man couldn't help but think of something so absurd, his mind returning to the time that he tried to establish a contract with the soaring steel eagle, looking at this encounter as his life-turning fortune rather than an unfortunate accident in his mind. These dragons, can I contract them? Thinking of something absurd in his mind, the upbeat young man subconsciously blurted the question out, causing the display on the gray floating screen to change, answering his question. You are now the ruler of this realm, ancestral origin of all the dragons that will grow here, hence there's no need for a contract between you and the dragons, as they will all unconditionally follow all your orders, even extreme ones so long as you have a valid reason for it. In addition to that, being the ruler of this realm gives you the benefit of the dragon's blessing, your strength will be growing in proportion to the strength of the dragons you are taking care of, and the same strength will be added on top of your own individual strength. After reading the explanations of the dragon herding system, the young man couldn't help but get even more excited, prompting him to ask how he could nurture his first ever dragon, the system responding by bringing him into the mission tab of the interface, a mission already completed and its prize ready to be claimed. Enter the Draconic Realm for the first time. Reward, Wood Dragon Egg, 1, 10,000 Realm Gold. Reading the description and the rewards for it, the upbeat young man starts smiling even more as claims the egg, a green, vitality-filled large spheroid the size of his entire torso appearing on the ground, the excitement coursing through his entire body making the pain of his injuries go away, even having the strength to carry the large egg all the way to the tree in the very middle of the floating island. A large tree with branches spanning over hundreds of meters, its description appearing. Once he focuses on it. True dragon nourishing tree. Description, a magical tree that speeds up the incubation period of a dragon, as well as blesses them with a body far stronger than a dragon incubated in a normal way. This is also a good nest for two dragons about to engage in acts of procreation to be in. After reading the description of said tree, the upbeat young man was surprised since as soon as he entered close proximity of the tree, the life-filled egg on his hands disappeared all of a sudden, his surprise and building up panic only lasting for a few seconds as the floating gray screen states that the dragon's egg is in the middle of all the branches, a spot where the mystical energy being constantly emitted by the tree comes out the most, the system also explaining that the place can only hold and nourish 5 eggs at most. How long until the young one comes out? Already looking at the egg like his child, the upbeat young man asks, the gray floating screen appearing in front of him with a timer stating that it is just a bit less than 10 minutes until the young dragon comes out of its shell. After that then, he decides to open the shop, checking if there's something that he can use to feed the wood dragon about to emerge from its shell, also searching for things that can help in creating a better environment for the youngling to reside in. Shop. Eggs, locked. Farms. Habitats. Structures, locked. Draw, locked. Seeing that there are only 2 features available for him now, he first clicks on the farm to search for something that the young dragon can eat, being met with a thing that makes him quite pleasantly surprised. Farms. Magic Fruit Farm, 1000 Realm Gold. Description, finish constructing in a minute and ready for harvest within 4 minutes, yielding 4-6 fruits per harvest. Only required to water once a day. Providing a young dragon with this as its meals will continuously nourish its body to the highest degree until the adolescent stage. Provides high level of filling and satisfaction to young dragons with just a single fruit. Level up dragons to unlock more food farms. Reading the display on the floating gray screen, the young man smiles in satisfaction as he clicks on the display of the Magic Fruit Farm, an aerial display of the entire floating island appearing on the screen surprising him, on it a semi-transparent image of the farm hovering over the land, waiting for him to just place it somewhere. This is really convenient. Moving the display of the farm around, the young man deduced that he could place it anywhere he wanted so long as it didn't overlap with any other object within the floating island, after this deduction making him think about where he can place it. Once I place it in a specific location, can I still move it around? Still wondering where he should place it, Dialek asks towards the dragon herding system, prompting another floating gray screen to appear in front of him once again, explaining the mechanics of the layout arrangement feature. You can still move it and all the objects around once you placed it, and you can also store the objects inside the internal realm space, but you can no longer sell the things already purchased. After reading the text on the floating gray screen, the young man nods in understanding as he places the magic fruit farm near the true dragon nourishing tree, making it so that he can immediately bring the fruit to his first dragon once it hatches. After selecting a place for the farm to be constructed, a magical veil of thick fog and mist surrounds the target area, something that the upbeat young man fails to see through, and within just a minute, the fog already starts disappearing, revealing the fully constructed magic fruit farm inside. Being vines, the fruits cling onto the strong wooden structure of the farm, the vivid, life-filled green vines and leaves of the plant making it appear extremely magical, partnered with the delicious-looking smooth purple fruit hanging on one of its vines, making it look all the more attractive to anyone's eyes. Despite the fruits still not ready for harvest, it's already a bit more than a fist in terms of size, their shiny coating reflecting some of the sun's rays and making them look mysterious, especially with its purple color, making Dialek wonder how this fruit will taste. Since this is a magical fruit that can properly nurture even dragons, it is recommended that you also take some of this for yourself, but only one per day as the human body can't properly absorb anything and any more than that and might even cause a problem. Almost as if being able to read his mind, the dragon herding system once again shows a floating gray screen in front of him, the answer to the thing he is wondering about being displayed on said screen, the words making him smile as he starts looking forward to the harvest of these fruits even more. In the meantime, while waiting for it to mature, he starts looking for a place where the wood dragon can settle, clicking on the Habitats section of the shop, seeing only one option with the reminder of him acquiring more types of dragons to unlock more habitats. Wood floating island, 5,000 realm gold. Description: a floating island brimming with vitality, filled with woods and rivers, providing an extremely comfortable place for wood dragons and any other dragon with the wood attribute to live in. Currently able to house 5 dragons simultaneously, can be upgraded. Reading the description of the only choice of habitat he can build, the young man purchases it without a trace of hesitation in his action, thinking for the better of his first dragon as he reminds himself that if he's going to do something, then he must do it right, hence why he spares no effort and money to make the still incubating wood dragon comfortable once it comes out. After clicking on the wood floating island, he hears trembling from the ground, making him quite wary as such trembling already brings him much trauma already, only for this to last only a couple of seconds, ending as a gigantic spatial rift appears from near the floating island, such grand sight causing the young man's body tremble as he watches the movements in the spatial rift, the power of space emanating from it causing some ideas to pop into his mind, something so vague yet seemingly so profound that he needs to enter meditation in order to comprehend. Being someone with a sharp and extremely good memory though, he opted not to focus on this as he watched the majestic movements of the spatial rift. From it emerged a large plot of vitality-filled floating island, waters flowing out and falling down from some areas of it, a river flowing down from the singular lush green mountain peak in the middle of it, the surface of the island covered with waters and woods, rivers flowing through and dividing 5 areas in the island. Knowing that he can't miss being there once his first ever dragon comes out, Dialek still refuses to ponder on the enlightenment of space as he watches it disappear while the new floating island settles in, asking the dragon herding system whether he can climb at the true dragon nourishing tree to witness the wood dragon's emergence as well. Agreeing with his request, the system teleports him to the top of the tree, just in the middle of all the large branches crowning it. At the very middle of those branches a green dragon egg pulsates with life, the egg now giving off a vibrant green glow as if something magical is happening inside, making the upbeat young man look forward to it even more. Come to think of it, how am I supposed to focus on anything else if I have to harvest the magic fruits once every 4 minutes? Thinking about feeding this young one once it breaks out of its shell, the young man's thoughts are directed to the magic fruit farm, prompting a seemingly serious question to pop into his mind, a question that is easily answered by the dragon herding system. Any resources coming from farms will be automatically harvested through the help of the arrays installed in them, and then immediately stored in the internal realm space for prolonged storage. After reading the explanation from the floating gray screen, he nods once again, now just waiting for the little dragon to pop out of its shell, the pain his body is currently experiencing as his organs start to churn more and more, no longer something that he feels in pain for, something in the air around the draconic realm making him not only sustain his life for longer time but also making him heal faster, an unexpected boon that he has yet to realize. Just relaxedly humming a tune as he watches the wood dragon egg continue pulsating the vibrant green light out of it, the upbeat young man ignores the notification of the magic fruit already being harvested twice, meaning that any moment now, the young wood dragon is already about to emerge from the egg. Snapping him out of his daze, the young man abruptly stood up as he heard cracking sounds from nearby, the shell covering the dragon gradually losing its structural integrity as cracks start to form all around it, the larger ones converging in a certain point that repeatedly produces even more crack, as if something hard is hitting it from the insides. After a few more seconds of struggling, a small, cute reptilian head emerges out of the spot, the little innocent eyes of the creature coming out looking single-mindedly at the biped standing in front of it, the sight of such a large creature making the young dragon all the more curious, forcing itself to break the rest of the shell covering it with its limbs, the already sharp claw tearing through the strong layer of the egg from the insides, completely breaking it out. Coming out of it, the young dragon already seems so big compared to normal animals, standing on its four limbs with its head reaching in the middle part of the upbeat young man's thighs already, the young dragon only looking at the young man for a while before it turns around and starts eating its own shell. While the young wood dragon takes its first meal, the upbeat young man just stood there in excitement, observing and appreciating the majestic, albeit modest form of the hatchling, its folded wings seemingly not ready to fly yet, but it's already standing strong on its limbs, appearing extremely well built and great, the scales covering its body appearing like a sort of tree bark that serves to make it look all the more regal, the little horns already sprouting on the side of its head like a crown deserving to an apex species, the long tail ending along with the small wooden spikes in its back. Witnessing the birth of such a creature, the young man couldn't help but feel quite proud, not to mention the fact that this young hatchling is going to be his companion in the future, something that no one would ever believe should he tell them that due to how prideful and mysterious the kingdom he's in, and even the entire continent views the dragons and even just its lower species. Once the young wood dragon finished consuming the shell it come out from, it immediately redirected its attention to the upbeat young man still gazing at it, the innocent, curious stare clearly that of something that wonders what the creature in front of them is. While still maintaining that curious look, the young wood dragon starts taking little steps towards the upbeat young man, the wariness that is previously detectable in its eyes now completely gone as it feels like the young man doesn't mean it any harm. Eventually getting closer to the upbeat young man, the little dragon lets out a low growl that surprises the young man, unaware that even just newborn dragons are capable enough of letting out sounds despite just coming out of their shell. The upbeat young man didn't dwell on it too much though, as seeing how the hatchling looks at him, he couldn't help but smile wide as he feels like this little one has quite the affinity with him, this thought being amplified even further as the young dragon's body closes on him, wrapping its long neck around his legs before once again gently growling while looking at him. Unable to stop himself, the upbeat young man reaches out with his hand towards the head of the hatchling looking at him, the young dragon then responding by extending its neck, allowing the young man to touch it on top of its neck, an act that dragons only reserves for those they truly respect in their hearts. Shaking as he plunged in excitement, the upbeat young man couldn't help but take out a purple-colored fruit from the dragon herding system's internal realm space, the fruit emanating a mystical aura that entrances not only him, but the young dragon as well, the two of them looking at the ripe fruit with fascination and craving filling their eyes. Both seeing each other take a gulp, the two of them then looks at each other, the hatchling pushing its head to the hand holding the fruit, urging the young man to take the fruit first, such action causing the young man to appreciate the young dragon even more, making him smile as he shakes his head and pushes the fruit back to it, not accepting whenever it tries to return it. Just for the sake of comforting the young dragon from thinking that it is eating alone, he takes another magic fruit from the internal realm space, the young dragon looking in curiosity as it wonders just how things suddenly come out from the upbeat young man's hands. Despite the two of them understanding each other through gestures well enough to establish basic communications with each other though, the hatchling still couldn't find a way for it to ask about this thing, causing it to not dwell too much on this subject, proceeding to gobble on the purple fruit in front of it with such fervor in its eyes. Seeing his first ever dragon consuming the magic fruit, the upbeat young man also starts eating the piece in his hand, the first bite surprising him as he never experienced something like this just from eating. Once the first bite enters his mouth, it immediately turns into a sweet liquid that floods his mouth with its mellow flavor, before then transforming into a misty substance as he swallows it, the liquid turning into air substance the moment it goes past his throat. What makes it more mystical is the fact that the moment he ingested it, the fruit starts sending warm stream of energy coursing across his entire body, the core containing all his mana revolving at a speed he never witnessed before, making him doubt his own potential as even just a single one of this fruit seems to be more than enough for him to nurture himself to a high level. Yet dragons eat this every day just to set themselves for a greater adulthood. This thought lasted in his mind for quite a while before he managed to get rid of it. Once he do so, he then starts focusing on detecting all the minuscule changes happening inside his body, his once injured self already starting to regain most of its former glory, the strings of muscles all across his body feeling stronger than ever, and even the mana circuit that connects his core through his entire body appears to improve significantly as well. Marveling at this holistic improvement that makes him feel reborn, the upbeat young man couldn't help but tremble in joy as he clenches his fist, feeling the newfound power coursing through his entire body, feeling like he never felt this light and powerful before. In fact, he truly never felt that way, as before, he's just a normal mage of his age with a bit stronger combat power than the rest of his peers in the city, something that is of no major concern as almost all of the nobles there are competent enough to match him evenly. The fact that the nobles can do this though still makes him, and his acquaintances take quite a pride to him as there is still a major difference between them, that being the nobles receiving great training and resources since young, while an orphan like him needs to risk himself just to get a chance to have a better environment to temper himself. That's no longer the case now. Looking around at this blessed, magical land that seemingly landed on his hand through sheer dumb luck, the upbeat young man smiles while thinking so, knowing that this is definitely the chance that he is waiting for if he wants to change his current standings, if he wants to change his own fate. Of course, I need to figure out how the entire dragon herding system works first. Not thinking too much of himself though, the upbeat young man starts planning for the future, how he can utilize the blessing he obtained to the utmost, how it can bring the greatest benefit to him, and the door to that path seems to be something already slightly open for him. Finishing the sumptuous meal that is the purple-colored magic fruit, the young wooden dragon burps in satisfaction, a wave of vitality-filled air coming out of its mouth, breathing life to the true dragon-nourishing tree, causing some small new branches to come out of the original ones. Such visuals of a part of the large tree growing near instantaneously surprising the upbeat young man quite a bit. Now looking at the hatching once again and intently observing it, the upbeat young man starts seeing the gray floating screen appearing in front of him again, the words displayed on the screen clearly showing the basic information of the dragon hatchling. Unnamed. Race, dragon, wood. Infancy stage. Cultivations. Magic, vague red core, combat power at vague orange core. Body tempering, early skin refining, combat power at early muscle conditioning. Elemental affinity, wood. Overall combat power, 4-star. Having seen the young wood dragon's cultivation, the upbeat young man couldn't help but feel depressed at the comparison, this hatchling only being born just a few minutes ago, and yet, despite its level still being lower than him, its combat power is already way stronger than his, making him wonder whether he's deserving to be the master of such great creature. You are deemed as the new master of the draconic realm, hence it is only right for you to be the master of all the dragons that will grow here. There's no need to be conscious about your current combat power as well, since the compounded blessing you will receive from all the dragon you will nurture will grant you immense potential and combat power as well. So that means the more dragon I grow and the better potential they have, the better it will be for me, right? With eyes filled with hope as he starts speaking once again, the upbeat young man asks, prompting the gray floating screen to change the words on it once again, explaining something that makes the young man all the more looking forward to the future. Indeed, in addition to that, you will gradually acquire a draconic body unique to yourself from the culmination of all the blessings you will receive in the future, blessings that will grant you innate abilities similar to the dragon who gave you the blessing. In addition to that, consuming the products from the farm is also a good way for you to increase your combat power potential. Reading the words, the upbeat young man couldn't help but nod in satisfaction, patting the head of the young wood dragon and now clinging to him once again, the young dragon seemingly enjoying this as it looks at the young man in reverence, as if looking at a divine figure that blesses it with something that only great dragons deserve. Meanwhile, the upbeat young man starts to get distracted once again as he joyfully reads his improved stats shown in the system.